Hello, readers and writers. I'm MJ, and today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite trans books. The Trans Rights Readathon is this week, and I've already showed you my TBR. Today, I wanted to show you 5 of my favorite trans books. This is not an exhaustive list, so I probably will be doing a video like this in the future, but I wanted to give you books across a variety of different genres for you to choose to read this week. So up first is Obi is Man Enough, and this is a middle grade novel about a trans boy who is a swimmer and his journey being a trans athlete. This is written by Shula Baylor, who was also I think a college level swimmer, and he's also a fairly popular trans rights activist, so you can go follow him on Instagram as well. Sometimes when you read a book by someone you don't necessarily think of as an author first, you come into it very hesitant, which I did with this book, but this book is amazing. This book is extremely well written and is also very hard hitting. It deals with transphobia and in multiple forms, including bullying and discrimination, and so it may be hard to read, but it's also an important read. It's a great read for an ally to pick up, to kind of see what it is like to be a trans athlete and a trans minor. I wish that all the people passing all of these legislations would pick up this book and just read what it's like for someone who just wants to be a kid. Next, I have a science fiction book, An Unkindness of Ghosts, and this is one of my favorite books of all times. There's just so much in this novel. It has a lot of diverse gender representation. It has diverse sexual orientation. It's neurodivergent, and it deals with society, systemic racism, and it puts it all on a colonial spaceship, and it's just extremely well written. So definitely one of my favorite all-time books. If you have not read this, I highly recommend that you pick it up. Now I want to change pace and give a nonfiction recommendation. This is Never Say You Can't Survive by Charlie Jane Anders. Charlie Jane Anders is a very popular science fiction author. She writes for television series, and she is recently working on a graphic novel or a comic for Marvel, with one of the first non-binary superhero. And Never Say You Can't Survive is a collection of nonfiction essays just about surviving and transness, and it's just such a positive, motivational book to read. Now, I would recommend you pick up anything by Charlie Jane Anders, but I especially also like her short story collection, which I had debated which one to put on here, but since I didn't have another nonfiction recommendation, I did go with Never Say You Can't Survive. But this is an author that I don't think you can miss with. Going back to science fiction, I have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and this is a book that, in my opinion, has everything going for it. So if you like romance, it has romance. If you're not into romance, like myself, then there's so many other elements that you can grasp onto in this story. There is a time gap element, there is found family, and it's a journey of self-discovery. It is about a sapphic romance, but there also is trans representation in the found family unit, and it's just an amazing story. So I love it, and I highly recommend you pick it up, and also this edition is stunning. I've read a lot of young adult trans rep books. In fact, the majority of my trans shelf is young adults, because it seems to be where it's the most accepted to publish for. And while I like a lot of those books, I'm a lot older than young adult, and so they don't necessarily resonate with me. And I tend to read them because that's where the representation is, but they're not written for me. One YA book that I absolutely recommend is Between Perfect and Real by Ray Stobbe. And this book is YA, but for some reason I just really connected with it. I think because it's about just exploring your gender, and even though it's set in high school, just that journey process, even as an adult, really resonated with me, and just how they kind of came to terms with their identity, and being a trans boy. It just, like, I think that journey, no matter what your age is, there's some similarities to it, and so I identified with the process, even if I didn't necessarily identify with the age of this story. And so, I mean, this book really hit me in the feels, and I would absolutely recommend everyone to read it. So there are 5 trans books that I would recommend. By no means is this an exhaustive list of what's out there. In fact, I could easily make another one of these videos, and probably will. But I wanted to give some of my favorite books so that you can potentially pick them up for the Trans Rights Readathon. So, what are you reading? Let me know in the comments below. And keep writing, keep reading, and until next time. It's extremely well written, and okay, cat, come on. And it has a time fly. You are making this extremely hard to film.